Russia will inevitably respond. There shall be retribution. The regime in Kiev will be eliminated, and there shall be a swift destruction of the Ukrainian country. These are the words of former Russian President Medvedev, Dmitry Medvedev. He was responding to the recent attack by the Ukrainians, a spectacular attack that took out some of Russia's strategic bombing assets. Medvedev has come to be one of the most interesting characters in this war. By no means the most interesting character of the war, Ukraine-Russia war, is Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. But Medvedev has cast himself also to be a player in the plot. And he's situated at a position that makes him one that is, whose statements, whenever he makes them, to be feared. Because he is the second in command of the Russian Security Council, and he plays practically a role where he's almost like the bad cop in Putin's supposedly good cop. Russia is planning a response to Ukraine's attack. The whole world knows that something will happen eventually. What the world worries about is the scale and scope of what will eventually happen. But Medvedev has said that Russia will inevitably respond, and Russia will make sure that they crush the country of Ukraine. These are very ominous statements. He is calling for the decapitation of the Ukrainian administration as we know it, including Zelensky and all that make up his cabinet. We should know that Zelensky's cabinet tilts far towards the right because of the support he has of the ultra-right people in Ukraine, those ones who support the philosophies of Stefan Bandera. So when Ukraine is threatened by someone like Dmitry Medvedev, most of the time, nobody listens to him because his role is subordinate to that of Putin. But people know that he is one step away from President Putin because he was a former president. In the 25 years that Putin has been on the scene, he's the only one who has been president before, and is the one who has been counted as a possible replacement to Putin whenever. Welcome all. Welcome to the global perspective I have about the world, geopolitics, and all. My name is Ebima Amungo. My videos are increasing in number, and my contribution to the ongoing debate about global world affairs is growing by your support. As I put out this video, I urge you to subscribe, to like and share and make comments. The response of Russia is being awaited, but it's not even the response of Russia that is the most interesting part of all this. We have a very garrulous president in America, President Donald Trump. He talks about everything planned and imagined, everything he hopes to do, and things that happen everywhere. He has an opinion on Gaza, an opinion on everything in China, an opinion on Russia, an opinion on Ukraine. But interestingly, since this incident happened a few days back, President Trump has been mum. He's been quiet is something that is making people wonder if the Western intelligence was complicit in that attack against Russia. Because the Russians and many political analysts believe that that operation, much as it had the hand of the Ukrainians, it was planned by the British MI5 and American CIA. That is what many people believe. They believe that the British intelligence and the American intelligence and possibly even the Israeli intelligence were part of these operations. That we will never know. Some have even asserted that while that operation was going on and some of the drones were swarming over the air bases all across Ukraine, Pete Esget, the defense secretary, was watching the events live. This, whether the Americans, the British, the Europeans, and the Western Europeans are complicit, there has been marked weariness, fear since that attack. While the fear is increasing in the Western world, how do we know that this fear is increasing in the Western world? Well, since that happened, that event happened, we have had a flurry of responses from some of the Western powers, Britain, Germany, France. France has not particularly said much, and then recently NATO. At a recent event in of the NATO meeting in Vilnius, Lithuania, where the Baltic states were meeting, the Baltic members of NATO, the Baltic states, the B9, expressed their fear and their worry about what's going on here now. The NATO president, Mark Rutte, suggested, and he has been saying this for a while now, that everybody has know that NATO has a very big hand to play in the war going on here now. But now he's telling a lot of European countries that they should be thinking towards moving towards war footing. In yesterday's video, I talked about how Britain has moved towards a war footing that was announced by Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, and how the Germans have ratcheted up their engagement in this war by pledging $5 billion to Ukraine and even helping them to build their military industrial complex. In the same vein also, Mark Rutte was telling all the countries of NATO that they should increase their spending by 3% of their GDP, that this is what it needs now to ratchet up their military industrial complex. We worry now that the war with Russia seems to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. It seems like something that will be inevitable in its happening. Because much as there are a lot of people who are saying that this thing should not go beyond being a regional Ukraine-Russia war, there seems to be a lot of players who have an interest in its escalating. After all, it just emerged that for the Biden administration that had a big hand in starting the war, the whole intention of the war was that they should destroy Russia. Today, it came out by the revelations of the Brazilian President Lula that in his conversations with Biden always said and insisted and emphasized that he wanted the destruction of Russia. The destruction of Russia is also the desire of a number of Baltic states. We know the former Prime Minister of Estonia, who is now the head of the foreign affairs in the EU, Kaja Kallas, says that Russia should be destroyed, broken up into smaller parts so that they don't remain a threat to the world. We should remember that Russia is the biggest country in the world, and they are one of the richest in minerals and all that. And they're a multi-ethnic country with so many different peoples. So the way she views it, that such a big bear bearing down on the small Baltic states, some as much as little, with populations as little as 4 million, that it is best for that region that Russia is broken up. The rhetoric of breaking up Russia, the rhetoric of whipping up fear against Russia, the rhetoric of mobilizing communities and mobilizing their states and their people against Russia is not a new talk in Europe. There's one or two voices who don't particularly like what's going on, and that will be in Hungary, and that will also be in Slovakia, where President Fico and President Orban have been very stringent in their criticisms of the war. But it just seems inevitable. The Ukrainians are doing everything. They've moved from fighting the war with the Russians to what we call asymmetric warfare now, where they are practically just blowing up things, some military, some civilian. But anything that is blown up in Russia or around Russia is fair game to the Ukrainians now. This is happening at a time that the Ukrainians are losing territory at a pace faster than anybody had seen in the war. The Russians are intent in pressing this war. And Medvedev stated in his Telegram post that the war, they are focused on taking this war to its logical military end. Seems like despite everything Donald Trump has done, it seems like he has lost the plot. It seems like those people in his administration or those institutions that really want war at all costs with anybody, be it Iran, be it China, be it Russia, there are people institutionally set and placed in within American policymakers that who want war at all times with anybody because somehow war profits America. We have seen how war has helped the Russian economy grow and bloom and become much more a stronger force than anybody anticipated. So the people who want war, the policymakers who want war in the West, their voice is getting stringent, it's getting bigger, it's getting louder. And in pushing and urging and encouraging Ukraine, the war seems to have only one possible outcome, a military conclusion to this war. The Medvedev in his post says, while we were going to continue with our diplomatic efforts, we will press on the fields of the war and continue our efforts to occupy Ukraine. The fear now is that will the Russians end their campaign after they have seized the four oblasts that are now part of their country? We see new operations being opened up in the north and the east in the northern part of borders of Ukraine, in the Sumy region and in the Kharkiv region. And how far will the Russians move in? If the Ukrainians continue to press on with their asymmetric warfare, if they push to the point where they damage something much more strategic than the bombers, if they will continue because there's an interest in the West that Ukraine should be continuing to do this. When you take out 10, 15 strategic bombers, it makes Britain safer in their own reckoning. It makes Germany safer. So they feel that way. So they push on and urge on Ukraine to continue. But when will it be that Russia will now take a decisive action? We are really worried at that point where they possibly will start using all these weapon systems that we know they own, they possess. The whole world knows that they possess weapon systems that are very lethal and very bloody. And when will they be pressed to take decisive action? When will we see the Oreshnik again? When will we possibly see a tactical nuclear weapon being used? People think that Russians cannot use it. But this is the thing. The Soviet Union and the Americans coexisted and cohabited despite all the machinations against each other with the knowledge of mutual destruction. You won't be able to attack Russia without thinking that Russia cannot do harm to you. The kind of weapons we have these days, London can be obliterated in just a few. London, the whole city of London, half the cities in Germany can also be obliterated. No amount of air defense systems can help. The only country that possibly is better protected, has longer time to respond, which is America. They are far away, but the Europeans are the ones who are urging and pushing for this war. So, as Medvedev said, revenge is coming. The world is watching. The world is waiting. The Russians have shown consistently under Putin, they are slow in reacting, meticulous, but like chess players who play a defensive game, they ultimately soak up all that you throw at them and then they come at you. We saw the summer offensive of the Ukrainians, how it was taunted and it was said to be something that will crush the Russians eventually, finally. But what did it? It was broken up, it was stopped, it was stymied, and now the Ukrainians are on their back foot. They are losing territory at a pace that is very astounding. People are losing assets, they're losing human beings, they're losing properties and all that. The war is not a good one. It is better off it is stopped, it is ended, and it comes to there's a final solution to it. But where we are now is so far away from peace. And when people like Medvedev are giving off ominous signs that there shall be retaliation that we don't know the outcome, retaliation that we don't know the scope and the manner of it. It leaves everyone guessing and wondering, are we edging closer towards World War III? This is the fear. And like I said, Trump is in a dilemma. He has been caught. He has lost the plot. He came out wanting to be a peace and a mediator. But at this point now, it seems like the institutions that run America have taken the initiative out of his hands. He has not said anything in following this attack on Russia. He's very quick to condemn the Russians whenever there's a strike on Kiev or in Ukraine. But in this particular case here, he has been quiet. And we wonder what the reason is for this quiet on Trump's part. We hope that the Russians, the Ukrainians, and the Western world will somehow see reason to end this war and make peace. This is where I end my program today. I thank you for being with me. Please subscribe, share, comment. One or two comments are trickling in onto the video. We are very grateful for that. Make more comments. Let us build this platform together. When we engage, then we can exchange more ideas. Thank you for being a part of today's program. I'll see you in the next program. Thank you.